Morning. I thought I'd do this. I've just been writing a whole load of stuff, blogs called The Calls, about political stuff, about generalisation of what I think is going on in this world, how people have become experts, who are you really listening to, are they really kosher, and all of that sort of stuff. Today I put on a conclusion, and it's the whole. It's simple, just love each other for fuck's sake, and it's really important. Love. Honestly to God, I wouldn't wish the life I've lived and the things I've put my through itself through. I put them me. No one pushed me towards this. No one said, right, this is what you've got to do. And it was. It was, you know, my dad stood before me and he'd gone to see my headmaster. Him and Mum went to see my headmaster with a 20, 30, 40,000 word essay written by one of the top child psychologists in the world. And on dyslexia. I think he may have even penned the word. And my headmaster pushed the essay back to my dad and went, your son is rebellious and he doesn't want to learn. So my dad had a huge, massive choice. He had to. My dad's not a bullshitter, he's not a liar, he's a factual man, and he's a man of his word as well. And he just couldn't say, yeah, son, I love you. He couldn't. That's not, because he didn't know what it was. And, he really believed in what he said. And that's why he was a father of the chapel in the NGA, shop steward. That's why he got that job, because he was the man of his word. And so when they came back home, I looked at them. Mum wasn't there. And it took me many, many years to realise why Mum wasn't there. And I looked at Dad and I went, what did he say? And Dad had a very big choice. He could say nothing, or he could tell me the truth. And he had to weigh that journey up, all the way home. It wasn't that far, but it was he said later on in life, I hated it, because I knew what was going to happen. I knew this was going to be in you. And he told me, they think you're rebellious and you don't want to learn. And when we had it out years later, he said, I saw you disappear. I saw you walk away mentally. And it was like I was fast-tracked to this psychological bubble. And I was 12, 13, 12. I still couldn't read and write. And I was just like, what do I do now? And I knew, and I had to. This 12, 13, 11-year-old Kevin stood there and had to make a decision that no one should have made or make, even as an adult. And he stood there and he went, that way, and I will be dead by 18. Or I'll climb into this psychological mental bubble and shut my entire self off. And shut myself off from love. And I did. I knew love and kindness wasn't going to get me through. And it didn't. Love and kindness didn't get me through. It didn't. I had to sell them for a 10 bag. I had to get rid of them. They weren't going to help me through this. And if any of you know anything about survival, an army survival, it is bloody brutal. You will eat me and drink my blood. You will. You will. It's just inedible and that. you know, and that's what I did for the next 38 years of my life. I can understand lifers. People have done serious jail. And my next step would have just been death. And I had a good go at that. And that bubble was burst when I was 50. Time you hit your 20s, you're sort of like, yeah, let's experiment and find out things, sex, drugs, whatever. You are just a funnel of experimental. 30s, you start panning out. I like this, I like that, I like this, I don't like that, and I don't like that. And lots of decisions are made in the 30s, right? I'm heterosexual, I'm gay, I'm bi. Lots of things like that. Your sexuality, you start thinking of settling down, starts to think about it more. You want to get a more secure job, you want to get your own yard. All of that really comes about. Then you hit 40. By the time you hit 40, you basically know what you want and where you're going. Alright? And it's quite, you know, you're set in your ways in your 40s. And then you hit 50. And you're like, right, okay, this is the pattern. This is the way. So when I hit 50, this bubble was burst. So all the stuff that you were learning as a teenager, learning to drive, having girlfriends and things like that, getting a job, doing all these wonderful things that a young man does or a young woman does, you know, I had to start there. I had to restart. It was like someone pressed the restart button on me. And that's where I've been for the last 5 years of my life. Getting off the street drugs wasn't that bad. Getting off the medication was that was a big one in 2014. But this, I had no crutches. I had no safety net. And that's where I've been for the last 4 years. Learning who Kevin Atwood is. Learning why I went that way. Why I had to shut them emotions off. I recently faced the 12, 13-year-old me. I was in bits, floods of tears. There was one thing I've needed all the way through this. One thing. And I'm going to finish on this. I'm going to tell you another little story. Me and my dad had it out. Big stuff. Big stuff. Everything was laid out, mate. I had to do this weird, strange, new concept and listen to him and take it on board what he said. As much as I gave him, he gave me. And I had to take some big responsibility, mate. There was things like, did me and Mum and I bring you up to shoot up drugs in a doorway? No. My mum and dad were from Edmonton in North London. Real poverty, real hardness, mate. I wasn't brought up like that. I was brought up in a nice Essex countryside with a house. Unfortunately, no one knew how to communicate and love. So we went on like this, and then we started to go back into our old ways. And he just kept saying, I'm not responsible and I'm not responsible. And I just turned around and looked at him and said, do you know what, Dad? You sound like a bloody addict. Boom! That night we had a meal. You could hear gnats farting 5 miles away. So we went and sat in the front, man. So I'm sat on the settee, facing him like that. And he sat there like that, watching TV. He don't want to know. This is a proper working class Edmonton lad who never met his dad till he was 8. because his dad was fighting off in the war, in the Second World War. That my granddad could sit there right now, and the only way I could know he was there is because this. He was so distant, the pair of them were. So I'm sat in there, and everything was building in me. Say it, Kev, say it. And I went, Dad, and he went, what now? I've always loved you. I saw him melt. I saw him melt because he knew I meant it. And I said to him, you've always been my hero. You are the reason I do this. The reason I do the things I do is because of you. I look up to you, you know, in such a way. And he was looking down like that, and you could see he was melting. And he poked his head up like that, and he went, I've always loved you, son. That is when I learned I was his baby boy. I was his baby boy. And he said, out of my boys, there's 3 of us on. You are the one that will go and do it. You just won't tell anyone. And the room was full of love. Love is what you need. You don't need a revolution. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to all this stuff. You need love. And so do I. I know what it's like to live without love. I've sold my love many a time. I've faked love. When people loved me, I used to get aggressive and violent. I'd rather you hated me than loved me, because I could deal with the hate. You need love. Peace, love, and out. And may your God go with you.